First question I got for our therapist.
Let's do it.
As a therapist, why do you think we want to get into the question?
Yes, God, I like this. I like this.
You got to.
Yes.
As a therapist.
Let's do this.
As a therapist, Molly. You got to put on your therapist hat, not your Molly hat now. Psst.
I mean, my therapist hat is always on.
Oh, if it's always on, perfect. I don't even got to say that.
Part of who I am.
Excuse me, part of me. What do you think? Why do you think the black community has such a stigma against receiving therapy?
Well, I would say for one, it can be a little challenging to generalize, right? Because I've worked with plenty of people within the black community. But I think in general, there's been a lot of stigmatization amongst many cultures, around therapy. And I think one of the reasons tends to be that a lot of people carry a deep philosophy, a value system, and have pressure from family, culture, community to do this too. That I've got to work through this on my own. Or I have to stay within the family to work on this. Or some of the private, secretive, personal issues that we have going on, we don't really want other people to know about because that could shame the family, right? That could create even further stigmatization. So therefore, let's just kind of keep it in here.
Is that the same for black women and men? Is it just the same for both, or do you think it's more men? Because I always felt like it's
personal,
more men.
honestly. I mean,
yeah. So you don't.
Because I've worked with all walks of life.
Right.
So
career.
you see that on every.
It was more of a
spectrum.
general question anyway. Because obviously not all black people don't go to therapy, but for the majority, they have that stigma. So but you answered it pretty well.
I like the fact that she's saying all demographics have that same issue. So it's not we just know us, so we think it's just us. So it's pretty cool to hear that. It's not cool, but it's interesting to hear that it is us. All aspects, all different demographics have that same issue.
It's very personal.
Yeah.
Because. We all know, coming from a particular family even, you can have several siblings in that family, and some people might be more open than others who tend to be a little bit more guarded, withdrawn, shut down, or feeling that pressure to deal with everything themselves rather than seek support to do it. I think the other component, which I see a lot in general, is the fear of vulnerability. A lot of people are afraid to be vulnerable. A lot of people don't want to open up, because they're afraid that if I open up this can of worms, I'm going to start to feel those feelings that I don't want to feel, and I've been suppressing those for a long time. Or maybe there's some repressed content down there that I don't really want to have to face.
How do you know? How does a person know? They don't even know, right?
With repression?
No, what you just said. You said some people are vulnerable, because some of the times, when I was saying to you, some of the times I felt like, man, I don't need to do that. Was one of the reasons why, is there a way to know that, somebody to know that without talking it? So it's
I think a lot of people are under the impression that when you get into counseling, that all of a sudden you're going to just have to share your whole life story right off the bat. But the best way to work it would be getting into any relationship with anybody, which is build the trust, and you build it slowly, and as it comes and as you feel more comfortable, then you'll maybe start to open up. But if you're working with a psychotherapist who's pressuring you to open up, that's not your person.
Okay.
Because you really want to take your time, I remember when I was in graduate school, one of my professors shared a story about working with someone who had dealt with a lot of trauma on a very consistent basis. This is down in New York City. She said it took her an entire year to even speak. She would see her for every single week, and they would sit for an hour.
That's crazy.
Silent.
That's crazy.
And then after 1 year, she opened up, and it was, really intense trauma that she had been through. But that's the beauty of being in a sacred, trustworthy space with another person who in time, hopefully, you will feel compelled to share what's going on. And in my experience, because I've been in the field for a very long time. I'm going on my 26th year of being in this profession.
Clap it up for that.
Yeah, no,
26 years.
That is a lot.
Commendable.
Turn of the century is when I started in this field. But yeah, it takes people some time, and I think there can be a lot of reluctance because of what is ultimately emerging for people. But at the same time, once you kind of break through, you know, some of those touch points, most people are just so grateful to have someone outside of their usual circle that they can talk to about things. Because you tell your best friend something, don't say anything to anybody. Sometimes it leaks, right? You say something to a friend or to a family member, and now all of a sudden they hate the person that you're talking smack about because you're upset. All of a sudden you love that person back again. Everybody else hates them because they're like, they did you wrong. So there's all these things that can happen. And the beauty of having, like, you know, we're HIPAA compliant, right? So we're not allowed to share anything, not that we would anyway, but it's a very safe place. And if you notice in our space here, we've got little sound machines throughout because we have those going just in case, you know, you can hear anything, you know, it kind of mutes out any sort of sounds that people are making just to further that feeling of trust in the confidentiality that we have here, you know?
As I get older, I like to think that, like, I may get more friends, but, like, my people are my people. So sometimes I get to a sense of, like, I can say something to my best friend, but I already know what he's gonna say back to me, you know?
Yeah.
Like, sometimes you just really want a totally different, unbiased
that's a good way
answer,
to put it.
you know? Because that's literally, I feel like, where I'm at in my life now, because I've always been the most scared of not being able to control my emotions. Like, once you crack the can, I might be good here in the room with you, but when I go into the open world again, and now, like, am I gonna be able to be okay? Yeah. You know, that was always my biggest fear with it. But I think it's, like you said, as far as, like, needing it to a point, is like, I think I'm at a point of, like, the people that I hate are my people, but I kind of know what they're gonna say depending on the subject. Like, I can tell myself already, and then I still call, and it'll be the answer that I knew I was going to get, you know? And you need those answers too.
No,
but sometimes I just want something fresh, something like something
different perspective,
that, you know, like even, like,
or someone to call you out.
Yes,
right? Because sometimes you might have a friend that's just kind of coddling you through the issue that you're going through, or they're like, don't worry, things will be okay, things are going to look up, and sometimes it's really nice to have somebody who's like,
no, you got to fix
I care about you, but let me just tell you something that I've been noticing over the course of time, and that is part of our work too, is confronting. You know, which is it's my favorite.
And it's crazy. I wish I could have got to this point at a younger age, but it's almost like, I think that, and for me, I'm speaking personally just for myself, like, I would be probably a million times better if I probably would have did it like 8 years ago, 7. You know what I mean? Like, some of the things that I went, some of the things that I went through, if I would have just found a person and like, I've always been cool with going through things on my own, but I think more so because, like, now I got kids, so I'm not making a decision just for me. I'm making a decision for me, but it might affect them. So maybe I should get some more of a professional opinion than just acting like, I'm gonna just do it, and if it don't work, I'll figure it out. You know, like, like, I could do that with me. I'm cool with that for me as a person, but when you have to take care of kids and things like that, you kind of got to look at it a little bit deeper than just figure it out.
Yeah, because you're a role model. Yeah. And even in basketball too, right? It's like you're a role model to all these children that are looking to you to receive that guidance and to receive that leadership, because you are a leader, no doubt. I can't tell you how many times I've had the situation of having, like, a family, whether it's a parent, single parent, or, you know, whatever kind of family, come in, bring children in for counseling, and then a little down the line, I'm like, it might be helpful for you to get some support yourself too. And I've had that happen so many times where then parents are like, I think you're right. Because sometimes, you know, they'll end up utilizing or wanting to utilize some of their, like, child's counseling time for themselves, and it's like such a good example of, like, we need help too. We all need help.
Right. No, of course.
You know, no one's exempt from that. Like, this life is not easy.
Right.
It's not.
That makes sense. For sure.
We're living on life's terms. There's a lot that comes into our path that we have to be strong and learn how to rise above.
That makes complete sense. Now, Molly, I got a question for you. As a white therapist, a white woman therapist, do you feel comfortable speaking to Black issues, for, like, that are, like, significant to Black people? I know that obviously everyone has their problems. Everyone has, like, different minorities have similar problems, but then there are Black people who would just have Black problems, or problems that are predominantly faced by Black people.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about that? Are you comfortable
Well,
with
I
that?
think, anytime I'm supporting somebody through counseling, no matter who they are, whatever walk of life, like there comes a point where we have a conversation of like, how is this feeling? Are there things coming up about my presence, in our time together? And for me to share the same with them, right? So it might be that there are some obvious differences between us. It could be a gender thing. It could be a race thing. It could be anything, right? It could be language. Whatever the case may be, it's like it's important to have those conversations so we can bridge any gaps, work through any sort of obstacles that might be coming into play. But for myself, I grew up in Nyack, New York, which is about an hour and 15 minutes south of here, and I grew up in a very diverse community. So my little crew, was very diverse in and of itself, but the school that I went to was very diverse. So I've always been immersed, and my parents both came from the city, so I've been very immersed in diversity. So that's what I know firsthand. And then having worked for Orange County for 8 years, I worked in the heart of Newburgh, and I rarely saw a white person, for counseling, and supported so many people who would, parolees, people on probation, CPS, the list goes on, just so many different issues that were happening and still are happening in that community. I think there's definitely been an improvement, but I'm very comfortable working with anyone because I see the human in everybody. But if there's something that I'm sensing that's coming up, or there's something that's coming up in me, by all means, that's a conversation to have when you're in counseling with someone, because you want to feel comfortable with someone, and if you're sensing it, then it's good to air it out and put it out there so we can figure it out.
So to
together.
piggyback, so let's say, because I know you from basketball and stuff, but everything you just said, I feel like I could sense it in meeting you. But let's say that isn't the walks. Do you feel like, though, in 26 years that you can like everybody kind of has the same problem somewhere along the line? Like, do you feel like
our problems universalized?
Yes,
kind
like
of?
It's not just like maybe like there might be some problems that we feel like are black problems that you can be like, whoa, hold on, I had a whole Caucasian family that had the same situation. Like, do they meet? Are there still differences after 26 years?
I mean, I think if we're following a philosophy or a value system that, we're all connected in some way, then I think there is a way to recognize the similarities in our life experiences. But do I think that, each person kind of has their own interpretation, their own value system, their own just, emotional kind of situation that goes hand in hand with what they're going through? Then yeah, of course, it's very personal, and I can't sit here and say someone who's not black that I know exactly what you're going through by all means. But what I will say is that I definitely do my best to empathize and have compassion for, and I've supported a lot of people to have a good sense of kind of some of those universal issues that I think all humans go through.
Right. Let me just say this.
Yeah, but
Molly, you're definitely not under the gun. Like, I just want you to
know
your
body in this too, honestly.
I just want you to know that like you're not under fire or anything like that. These are all like preface questions.
I love this.
No, your body and your body.
I just never know where how people are taking things or feeling and whatnot. So I just want to make sure that you know that.
I
no attack on Molly.
No, I don't feel attacked at all.
See, some people like I say that. You know what's funny? I say that because I deal with people in my own personal life that will feel attacked by just basic questions. So I'm just making sure.
No, I seriously welcome them. I appreciate it, and I love that we can touch upon questions that maybe a lot of people aren't asking, because that's the beauty, and I think that's kind of the purpose of this, right?
Your body in it too.
It feels like that's kind of the intention,
right? And that's good vibes. That's positivity. That's what happens when you bring positivity to the podcast.
No, you're right.
Only positive things can happen.
You're right.
You know what? If I was
the
other piece too, like if I was working with someone who was like, Molly, I can't work with you because you're a white woman. I'd be like, let's find somebody who you can work with that works for you.
Sense,
like, I'm not going to try to like force you to do anything that you don't want to do, and I understand it. Right? I know a lot of women that are like, I want to seek a woman for XYZ, whatever it may be, because they feel more comfortable with a woman. There's times where I might say, even though you feel very connected to women, maybe working with a man would be helpful for you.
Hey, if you guys like this video, make sure you check out these videos where we talk more about music, dating, and real life situations. Thank you for supporting the podcast. Make sure you check out these videos and make sure you subscribe. Peace.